All right, Adam, it is game week finally, and today's Monday, but it's Sunday. We'll confuse everybody, but it's Monday of their preparation.
Yeah.
It's obviously Sunday. Game coming up on Friday night against Colorado State, and the Buffs have started preparations. And Mel Tucker talked to us today, and hey, they're getting ready to go.
Yeah, he didn't really give away much in terms of when we asked him about CSU, kind of vanilla answers, which you would expect going in the first game. But
Yeah.
one thing, he did say, you can prepare for this team, but they're going to throw some wrinkles in there that maybe you're not prepared for. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to see how this staff and this team responds on Friday night when they see some stuff maybe CSU hadn't done before.
Yeah, he mentioned that really this game is all about them sticking to their rules and really just kind of playing their defense the way they've been taught, and that if they do that, then they should be able to be prepared for whatever CSU throws at them. So we'll see what goes on there. But not really surprising, kind of the vanilla answers that you get from a head coach going into that first game.
One thing that I'm interested to see is we've heard these receivers have gotten the better of the secondary pretty much throughout the preseason.
Yeah.
We know that CU has really good talent at receiver. Is this like a top 5 receiving group in the country because of it sounds like the way they've performed is that way. And if they're not, you're concerned about the secondary. It's always kind of that tough thing from an analytical standpoint when you only go against each other. Going into 2017, we thought both lines were going to be pretty good, especially the offensive line. Well, they were going against each other every day in practice. So once the season started, we found out that neither line was very good. So that's one of the interesting dynamics that I'm anxious to see.
Well, we know the kickers are going to be pretty good. Well, I don't know if he can stay healthy. But James Stefano was just walking by, Ray Robinson. The kicking game, obviously, yes, and James walked by. I mean, it's in good shape, but kind of joking, I got flustered there. But these guys, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the receivers and the DBs because we know they're talented at receiver, but you hear things coming out after practice, people that were in there saying, these guys really can't cover anybody. That's concerning a little bit. And I know they've been banged up a little bit. Delrick Abrams didn't make it through the whole season last year. Neither did Chris Miller. So, I think there's some big-time question marks at DB. And, we're going to see. I mean, Delrick and Mackay are starting off in their starting roles. You were able to talk to Mackay a little bit. And what did he have to say about that?
Well, corner should be as good or better than last year, right? They didn't really lose anything. Delrick Abrams Jr. is another year in the system, experienced now at this level. He's healthy, even though he was banged up a little bit during camp. Mackay Blackman, we've heard the coaches talk about making a huge jump from last year. Chris Miller's healthy again.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that they would take a step back at that position, but Mackay, he's a ball hawk, and he takes a lot of pride in that. You talked about that a little bit earlier. He talked about his upbringing from where he grew up. He said, you got to fight for everything that you get. And he didn't have anything other than FCS scholarship offers coming out of high school.
Right.
So he went the JUCO route, even though he was a full qualifier. Said there it was humbling. He had to fight for everything. And same thing here. And that's worked out really well for him. It's interesting. He's eating 4,000 calories a day, but he just has that metabolism. And I told him, you're going to wish you had this problem when you get older. But right now he's like having to force feed himself food, and he's really not putting any weight, but at least throughout camp he hasn't lost any weight either.
Yeah. Well, let's transition to some guys that are definitely eating 4,000 calories a day, if not more. The offensive line, we both talked to Coach Cap a little bit and just kind of asked him why some of the choices he made with the offensive line. And I think the biggest takeaway I got from that was he's got a starting group right now, but that's still fluid. I mean, he said that may not be the starting group 3-4 weeks down the road. And so competition is still alive there.
One thing I did like, though, is I asked him, do you feel like right now you've got a starting 5, or are you going to be rotating on Friday night? And he said, right now, I like the 5. So we're not going to see musical chairs going on at offensive line on Friday night.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously, like he said, as much pressure as I can put on these guys in practice, there's nothing that will be able to simulate a game. So you've got to see how they respond on game day. Kari Cush is probably the main one there just because had some reps last year, but very limited, not many. But he talked about him winning the job at left guard because he was simply just the most consistent day in and day out, where some other guys were up and down. I know Casey Roddick was somebody that we thought might have a really good chance to win that. Sounds like he was banged up this preseason. At least that's what Coach Cap said.
Right.
One other interesting tidbit is he mentioned Josh Gines as a player that did not impress him in the spring, but has worked really hard and is a guy that right now he's not their backup because if something happened to Tim Lynott, obviously Purcell would move in to center, but Josh Jones is a guy, based on what Coach Cap said today, maybe in the future that we could look to be a contributor. One other guy to keep an eye on is Jack Shutak. Coach Cap mentioned that he has, because of some injuries during camp, has moved around in practice at 4 different positions on the offensive line. He said he almost felt bad for him that he had to do that because it's hard to master one position when you're moving around, but he's been versatile in that sense. So if they have some injuries there on the offensive line, Jack Shutak is a guy you might see play quite a bit of football this year.
Yeah, I believe he's played just about everything but center throughout his time. And speaking of center, asked him about that as well. Tim Lynott wins that job over Colby Purcell, who was the starting center all of last year. And Coach Cap said that really what it came down to was bottom line, he just felt better about that combination that way than he did other ways. So meaning, he must like Lynott at center, Purcell at guard better than the other way around right now. So it sounds like, overall, like you said, it sounds like he kind of likes that combination right now, but we're going to see how it goes throughout the season.
And that's a pretty big sample size to work off of because Lynott got obviously a lot of reps at center this spring, and then early in camp, I think, I could be wrong. We're not allowed in there, but it seemed like it was pretty split. So
I think the first 2 weeks was almost exclusively Colby, and then since then it's been almost exclusively Tim.
Yeah.
So based off of what I've been able to gather, so
Tim's got a lot of experience playing at this level. I know he didn't like having to switch back and forth earlier in his career, but maybe now that experience of playing some center will pay off for him.
Yeah, he has told me that if he had to do that now, he didn't like it back in 2017, I think it was.
Yeah.
That was the year he got hurt. But if he had to do it now, he'd be much more comfortable doing that now. So we'll see what happens with that offensive line. See who else we get today. Brady Russell I talked to. And really just kind of not really so much about the tight end position. We did talk about that, but he's excited to see what's going to happen with that. But more so, I didn't talk to him all camp. And so talked to him about game week, and he mentioned there's excitement going there. And obviously they're playing his hometown team, the Rams. He's excited about that. So he said there is a little bit of a change when game week hits. The schedule changes, and guys kind of know, all right, this is game week. So I feel like they're getting locked in.
We did the whole breakdown of our expectations for the depth chart, and really aside from Jarek Broussard being in there as a kickoff returner, which makes a lot of sense given his skill set, we were pretty spot on there. And I still had people, though, when the depth chart did come out, tweeting at me and asking about Brady Russell really beat out Jalen Harris for that number 1 spot, and they're both going to play a lot of football. I don't know if it matters all that much, but yes, Brady Russell is a really good football player.
Right.
He is probably the most underrated guy. I know Mel Tucker said he thinks Carson Wells is. I think Brady Russell is their most underrated player. He's got that perfect mentality for this staff too. He's a blue-collar guy that can still do that blue-collar blocking in this offense, but he can get out there and catch some passes.
Yeah, we saw that in the Washington game last year that, hey, if you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. So I'm eager to see what happens with that position. But anything else we have today?
I talked to Dimitri Stanley, and he's number 1 on the depth chart at punt returner. Obviously, his father, Walter Stanley, was an explosive returner both here and in the NFL. He said he went back home I think yesterday when they had their day off, and picked his dad's brains a little bit, and his dad said, "You're going to have to show me on game day." He's not bought in quite yet, but no, Dimitri is an incredible athlete. I asked him, did you pick J-Mac's brain a little bit last year? Because he was a pretty solid slot receiver here during his career, especially on third down in crucial situations. And he said that, he really picked J-Mac's brain a lot about finding the different cushions, where you can get open when you're in that slot role, because Dimitri moved all over the place when he was at Cherry Creek. So I think last year was the first time he had kind of focused on slot receiver. And he also said the number 1 thing that he wants to be graded on this year is blocking. That this staff puts a huge emphasis on blocking out of the slot. They do with all the receivers, but particularly slot receivers. So that's something he's going to, I think the diehard CU fans already know about him. He played in 4 games last year, but the casual CU fan is going to get to know about number 14 out there pretty early this season. Yeah,
well, I'm excited to see him. He's one of those young guys I'm really excited to see this season, and we'll get a chance to see him. Who knows, maybe he'll pull a Jeremy Bloom and first punt return, take it back against CSU.
Also, one thing he said is, my heels are on the 10-yard line, and if the punt goes over my head, I'm not going to field it. So CU fans, after last year's adventure back there, I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I think CU fans would love to hear that. So I think that'll do it for us today, and we'll be back later on this week to do more videos leading up to the game against the Rams.